guys, welcome back to Spelling and Word Study. My name is Mrs. Rhoades and I'm here to get you started on Unit 27, the long A pattern with A-R-E. Please take a second to gather your materials. You will need your orange book open to page 167. You will also need some colorful pens, markers, or crayons. Remember, whatever I mark on my board, you should be marking on your page. Please save room for a key as well. If at any point I'm moving too fast, please pause the video and catch up. All right, so last week we learned about the AR chunk. AR makes an R sound in words like sparkle and artist and sharpen. AR is an example of an R-controlled vowel, right? That R does something to the A that makes it not long or short, but a whole new sound. Well, today we're going to see what happens if we put a silent E after that AR chunk. It turns out that that silent E acts like a bossy E. It jumps over the R and makes the A say its name, which is how we end up with a pronunciation of where, where, barely, beware. So we are focusing on that air pattern this week, and we are making that air pattern with A-R-E. Now, next week, you're going to find out about some other combinations, some letter combinations that can also make that AR sound, like E-A-R or A-I-R. But we're not going to worry about those today. This week, we are focusing only on the A-R-E chunk. So let's start by reading our list. And as we do, please use your ears to listen for that air chunk and use your eyes to look for that A-R-E pattern. Please repeat after me. Aware, barely, beware, careful, declare, fair, glare, pair, prepare, rare, scary, share, spare, square, and stare. Did you hear that long air sound in each word? Great. Now you'll notice most of our words this week consist of one syllable. A few of them have two syllables. So I've already gone ahead and used a purple vertical line to mark our syllable breaks in words like aware and barely. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to choose a color, and let's go through and find that A-R-E chunk at each word. So we see it at the end of aware. We see it at the end of a syllable in barely, the end of a word in beware, the end of a syllable in careful. We see it at the end of the word in declare and fair, glare, and pair. So it looks to me like that A-R-E chunk is going to show up at the end of a word or the end of a syllable, not at the beginning and not in the middle. Here it is again in prepare and rare. Now look at the word scary. What happened to our E there? Yeah, if we take the word scare, there's our E, right? There's our A-R-E chunk. But when we change the noun scare, or the verb scare, to the adjective scary, we have to drop that E. And the reason we have to do that is because Y is considered a vowel suffix. You already know that you have to drop the silent E if you add a vowel suffix like ing or ed. Same thing with Y. All right, back to our AREs in share and spare, square, and stare. Over here, blue box equals A-R-E, chunk, but it's not going to be pronounced like the word R. It's going to be pronounced like a long A, like A-er. Make sense? Good. Okay, so we talked about the Y suffix. What I want to do now is go through and find a few more suffixes. So we see one right here in the word careful. Let's draw a box around that, okay? If a person is careful, that is an adjective. It's a describing word, and it means that the way they act or the way they behave is full of care, right? You pay attention to what you're doing. So if mom asks you to bring in the groceries and in the shopping bag there's 2 cartons of eggs, you're going to be very careful. You're not going to slam it down on the floor or on the counter. You're going to make sure that the way you treat that bag is full of care. By the way, notice the word full has 2 L's, but when we use it as a suffix in words like careful, thankful, helpful, that second L disappears. Okay, do you see any other suffixes here? We talked about the Y in scary. We know that if we add Y to the end of a word, we can change a verb or noun to an adjective. So we can take the word boss and make it bossy. We can take the word mess and change it to messy. Now we take the word scare and change it to scary, and that turns it into an adjective as well. All right, I thought I had another, we have another suffix right here, the ly, okay? When we see ly at the end of a word, it usually means, or it often means, that we have an adverb on our hands. Remember we talked about adverbs yesterday, last week, hardly, farther, right? They add detail to a verb. Well, same thing with the word barely. If I barely ate any dinner or I barely slept last night, it means almost not at all. Like it almost didn't happen. If I barely slept, I only slept for a little while. If I barely ate, I only ate a few bites. It was like almost nothing, right? Most of the time when we see ly as a suffix, it tells us we have an adverb. Slowly, loudly, carefully, helpfully. It describes how we do something. Okay, so ly, full, and y, those are all very common suffixes, and they're all really good to know. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about are homophones. You remember what those are, right? 2 or more words that sound the same, but they're spelled differently and have different meanings. We have a lot of homophones this week, starting with the word fair. A fare is a noun, right? You can't ride the bus, the town bus, unless you pay the fare. You can't ride on an airplane unless you pay the fare. So the fare is the cost of travel, the money you have to pay to get from place to place. Now, this kind of fare means something totally different than this kind of fare. This kind of fare could mean like, well, that's fair or that's not fair. It could also be a fair that you go to, a place that has rides and food and games. And it can also mean so-so, like I didn't do great, I didn't do poorly, I did fair, right? Or I got a fair amount done. So that's kind of like medium. All of those kinds of fare are spelled like this. The only time you're going to see this kind of fare is if you're talking about money. You have to pay the fare. Now, this right here is another homophone. This kind of pear means to cut and peel, like you use a paring knife to cut and peel potatoes. Okay, so that's this kind of pear. You use a paring knife to pare an apple or pare potatoes. But there's this kind of pear, which means two, like I put on a pair of shoes. There's also this kind of pear that you're going to see next week, and that is a type of fruit, right? So pear, pear, and pear are all homophones. But the only kind of pear we're worrying about today is a verb, and it means to cut up apples or potatoes. Okay. Stare is another homophone. This is a verb. If you stare at something, you look at it. You keep looking at something, right? You don't look away. You don't even blink, right? If somebody stares at you, it kind of makes you uncomfortable, right? If you're sitting in the classroom and all the kids stare at you, you're like, why is everyone looking at me, right? So to stare is to keep looking. But there's this kind of stare, which means a step. So you might have a staircase in your house to help you get from one level to the next level. All right, did I find all of them? Fair, fair, pear, 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 stare, stare. Okay, so over here, red line represents homophones. Two or more words that sound the same but are spelled differently and have different meanings. Okay, let's get rid of all these other homophones so they don't trick us up. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go through our list and finish labeling the parts of speech. So let's start with aware. Aware is an adjective. It describes somebody's attention level. Like, are you aware that there's somebody knocking on the front door? Are you aware that somebody took $100 out of your bank account? So if you are aware, it means you know what's going on. Okay? When you are walking in a big city or you're walking by yourself at night, you have to be aware of what's going on around you, right? To beware, that's a verb. To beware means to watch out, to pay attention. You might have seen this sign. Sometimes people have it hanging on their fence if they don't want people coming up their driveway or walking on their property. They might hang up a sign that says, beware of dog, like watch out, we have a dog. So to beware just means to watch out. When you're driving your car through a neighborhood, you have to beware of little children that might run out in front of you. If you're driving on the highway at night, you have to beware of deer or moose or other animals that might dart out in front of you. To declare is another verb. To declare something is to announce it. So if somebody is going to run for president or run for the town council or run for the school board, they have to declare it. They have to declare their interest and say, hey, I want to run for this position. Okay? You might also declare something to your family. Like you might declare, you know what? I'm done eating meat. Or I declare that from now on, I am not eating candy before bedtime. So when you declare something, you make an announcement. You actually make a declaration. You've heard that word before, right? The Declaration of Independence. That's when the United States declared that they no longer wanted to be part of England. They wanted to break away. To glare is also a verb. We have really good vocab this week. If you glare at someone, you look at them in an angry way. Look in an angry way. Okay? So if my sister tells on me because I stayed up too late last night watching TV and now she's telling on me, I might glare at her because I'm mad that she's trying to get me in trouble. So that's one kind of glare. There's another kind of glare that is a noun, right? We talk about the glare of the bright lights. Sometimes, you know, if you're walking outside and someone's got the headlights shining on you, you go like this. Sometimes if you're walking outside and it's a really sunny day and the sun is too bright, you know, the glare hurts your eyes. That's why we put sunglasses on, or we wear a hat that has a brim, or we pull down the visor on the front of our windshield. All of those things protect us from the glare. So glare, I'm going to write bright light, but unpleasant bright light. Prepare is another verb. To prepare means to get something ready. So if you're going to have company this weekend, you might have to prepare for your guests by cleaning the house, by buying some groceries, by making some treats. Those are all things you do to prepare, to get ready. Rare is an adjective. It has a couple different meanings. It can describe food, like meat, that is not well done. So if you go to a restaurant and you order a hamburger or you order a steak, they're going to ask you how you want it cooked, which means how long do you want us to cook it and how hot should we cook it? Do you want it well done or do you want it rare? If it's rare, it's still going to look pink. It might even look a little bloody, okay? So that's one kind of meaning. But rare can also mean not common, right? So certain types of rock are very common. I could go outside and find a million pieces of, I don't know, slate or granite or whatever. But there are other kinds of rock that are very rare, and it would be hard for me to find them. Scary, we know, is an adjective. Share is a verb. If you share, you let other people use what you have. Spare can be a verb. It can also be used as an adjective because a spare could be an extra. Like it's a good idea to carry a spare tire in your trunk because if you get a flat, you might need to change it, right? So a spare could be an extra. But if someone might say, hey, can you spare a pencil? I lost my pencil. Could you spare a pencil? Or could you spare $1 so that I can ride the bus? So to spare something means to give away an extra. Square can be a noun if we're talking about the shape, right? I don't know. The box was a square. Or you can use it as an adjective. I put everything in a square box. And then we also talked about stare, which is a verb, which means to keep looking. So most of our words this week are verbs. We have lots and lots of great action words. We do have a few words that can be used in more than one way as a verb and an adjective or a verb and a noun. But I think we're good to go. So good luck, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.